Okay, we're seeing some more names pop up now. I'll give it still maybe 30 seconds before I start. But if you don't mind, just let me know where you're attending from. Give me a hello. You can type that in the chats. Okay, so I'm going to get started. Just give me one sec. What is this? So from Kitchener. Oh, hi, Devinder. Hey, Parm from BC. How you doing? I'm glad you made it. From Dune. Oh, neighbors. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get started. I got a lot to share, and I want to make sure that I leave time for people to ask questions at the end. So we're going to get started to, keep ourselves on track with time and also honor your time. So we're here for the webinar titled "A Root Cause Approach to Weight Gain: A Snail-Paced Metabolism and Fatigue." So what's going to be unique about this presentation is that I'm going to contradict what most people think weight loss is really about. Okay. Our society is a society of contradictions, right? So most people think that the most important things you need to do when it comes to weight loss is reduce your calories and increase your exercise. But the truth is, if you dig through the research, and this isn't the case at all, and if you just address those two things, you're pretty much guaranteed for failure all the time. And through this presentation, I'll highlight why this is. So doing these types of presentations has become a passion of mine. Educating my community is a passion of mine. And I'm really glad you could join us. We're going to get started, but before I do that, I want to kind of walk you through why I think it's such a big mission of mine to educate our community. And the reason why is because really nobody else has taken the time to do it. So if you look at what we're told in society, what looks like an investment in our communities is building bigger hospitals, building new wings to hospitals. To me, what that's a sign of is a lack of investing in our education of our community. Okay. So if we're going to, the future shouldn't be that we need more gigantic mega hospitals. It should be we need less of them, right? If we're making more and more, then we're not really addressing the problem of chronic illness that exists in our society. And right now we're running at a rate in adults and children of chronic disease is 50%. So 1 in 2 people have a chronic disease, right? And that's a shocking statistic when you think of the future of all of our kids, okay? So before we get into it, I want to share with you a little bit about my story. And what I want to share with you is that up until a certain point in my life, I was actually a very sick person. And this is kind of the dark secret of healthcare, is that you think the person you're going to see to get your health back is actually healthy. And it's actually not true. And I was exactly that case. So I was losing my health. I couldn't control my bowel movements. I wasn't able to stay awake during the day. I was suffering from really extreme fatigue, and things just kept spiraling out of control. And why I'm sharing the picture of my kids is because they were the reason why that I actually changed my life. So me having my own importance in my life, so saying that, oh, I needed to change for myself, wasn't a big enough reason for me. Okay. What happened was the day my wife told me she was pregnant with our first, I remember she told me to go buy a pregnancy kit. And when I was driving back the thought of having a child crept into my mind, and I started thinking about the seriousness of this situation and how my life would change. And it was at that moment I almost heard a voice in my head asking me, what are you going to do to make sure this baby is born healthy and lives a healthy life, and also that your wife is healthy through this whole process? And the answer I had was nothing, because what I realized about myself was I wasn't healthy, right? I had made all these accommodations around being sick in my life. For example, I'll give you an example. In my office, in my clinic, in my back office where my desk is, I have a couch. And now some people might think, well, it's just nice to have a couch for people to sit on. No, I actually bought that couch to sleep on every day after I ate lunch, because my fatigue was so bad that I couldn't get through the day without sleeping. So I would actually lock my door, set an alarm on my phone, and I would sleep for an hour, and then I'd get up and continue my day. But that's how exhausted I was, right? That's how thick my fatigue was. I also stopped eating almost completely. So I wouldn't eat breakfast for sure, because I couldn't predict when I would have my next bowel movement. So if I was going to a meeting or had to be at work to see patients, I wouldn't eat in the morning, because that was the only way I could predict that I wouldn't have to run to the bathroom, and I could be in there anywhere from 5 minutes to 45 minutes. So I just started making all these concessions in my life about around being sick. But the scary thing is I didn't realize I was doing it, and in a sense planning on being sick. So until this question came to me of, what are you going to do to lead your family? And I was in no position to do so. So what happened for me was, the next couple of days I reached out to someone I knew in the States, and I hired them to be my teacher and my doctor, and I started learning at the same time. So they were in functional medicine, which is what I've gotten into ever since my journey led me there. And in a really short time, I started to get answers as to why I was sick, how I was making myself sick. And within 3 months, I had my life back. Not even just back, but I was better than I ever was. Okay. So I just wanted to share this story to you, because I think that it's really important for everyone, when you embark on a journey to recover your health, to have a very significant why. And I hope it through my story, you see that, like, I wasn't enough, right? I was good at lying to myself, but I knew that to become the father my children deserved, that was a why that was a why that would get me out of the bed every single morning and make me commit to a better life, not only for myself, but for them. Okay. So I know that being a parent has probably been the most spiritual journey I've been on. And what we have to honor is that our children, if we want to impact their lives in a positive way, it's not about simply telling them how to live and telling them what to do, but it's about showing them how to live, right? I'm a firm believer that our kids, it's a simple rule, right? Monkey see, monkey do. They don't listen to what we tell them to. They watch us and they copy us. And so if we're going to impact their lives in the greatest way we can, which is ultimately the biggest gift we can give them, then what we have to do is simply role model. We have to become the role models that they need so that we can lead them to a better life and avoid the pitfalls that we've had to go through. Okay. So I want to share with you why we're doing this. I shared with you my big why, which was my children, but why does this program exist? Why am I doing this? And why am I spending my time on a Tuesday evening with you guys? So our why is to help you stay out of the doctor's office, including ours. So I know that there are certain things I started my practice in 2006, so it's been quite some time. But in my journey, what I've learned is that most patients, if they take action on the things that they have the ability to action, they will move the needle in terms of health. They'll move themselves closer to health. And the patients that don't practice these things that they have complete control over, they will not move that needle, right? And so what I've learned is that the patient is the most important part of the equation, as long as they're willing to take action. Okay, so we have to create change, because I'll repeat this theme over and over, is your body never makes a mistake. And so if you don't like the outcome of what you have, It's not because your body is faulty or weak or it's got some problem with it. What is happening is it's creating the correct expression that matches the life you're living. And so if you want to change it, you don't change the expression, right? You change what you're doing in it that's leading to that expression. So you change your life, you change yourself. Okay. Another why is we want to help you achieve freedom. And so, as I said, I want you to not just stay out of our office. I want you to achieve that freedom in terms of your health, your time, your emotional space. And so if you look at it, your health sets the ceiling for all aspects of your life. When I sit down and talk with people and ask them a simple question like, what do you want to achieve? Well, I want to have more energy to pursue my career, to invest in my family, and so on. Well, that energy is missing because of their health. And so ultimately their health impacts all of those areas of your life, right? And so another why of this program exists and why we're doing this work is to activate your consciousness. And this is really important because this is kind of the next level of evolution of a human being, right? Is to start to connect to your greater purpose. Why are you here? How are you going to impact your family? What's your legacy going to be? These types of ideas. And to do that, we have to completely rework the mindset that we approach every single day with. The last one is to help you help yourself, right? It's to empower you to create change, not only in your life, but in the life of everyone you care about, right? Again, so if you have young kids and you change the way you live your life, you will empower them because they're going to see and copy you, right? So I'm going to take you through a list of our values, okay? Now, what I want to tell you is I share this with you because I want you to know that these are my values. This is our values as a clinic. But in everything that I do, these values are baked into that process. Okay. I will never ask anyone to do anything that doesn't have these values in it already. So our values start with love. Everything starts with love. Every healing journey starts with the emotion of love instead of desperation. Okay. Honesty, integrity, transparency, growth. To be successful at anything, you have to be willing to grow and shed your old skin. That goes for me just as much as it does for anyone else. Excellence, we strive for excellence in everything we do. Nature is a big part of my life. Connecting to nature is such a valuable tool and is a really big tool in this program itself. So vulnerability is another value. And what vulnerability means is being open to the fact that somebody else knows more and being willing to hear feedback to learn and grow from, right? Having empathy, consistency, community, freedom, timeless wisdom, paying it forward, and family. Family is a big one for me because I grew up with my grandparents living with me. And when I look back at my childhood, I remember how fortunate I was to have that experience. And one of the things my grandparents used to say to me from a young age was treat everybody the way you want us to be treated. And so everyone that I work with, all of my patients, all of our clients, it's essentially just become extended family. There's nothing I won't do for people that are connected to us or connected to me. And I want you to know that these are the types of values that I have in my life, in my business. And another reason why I share these things is because anytime you work with someone, anytime you start a partnership with someone, you want to make sure that your values match, right? And so if you're reading along and you're looking for what your values are, and sometimes you should probably take a screenshot of this to see if yours match, then that is a good place to start, right? And so if you are watching now and you resonate or you have the same values, do me a favor and in the chat, type, yes, I have the same values. And I'll just wait. And so if you have the same values, that's a really important thing. And that right away lets me know that this is someone I can work with. And if we don't share the same values, yes, okay, most people have the same values. Awesome. Very good. Very good. Now, if we don't have the same values, that is okay too. But what I would highly suggest is that just shows that there's some alignment that's not ideal, right? And what I've learned in doing this type of work is that I'm not best suited to help everyone. And how I've learned to determine who I am best suited to help is when our values match, right? And so if you don't have the same values, that's okay. I don't take it personal, but it's just a sign that maybe we're not the right fit for each other, okay? So one of my core beliefs is that to gain health, the patient will have to activate their inner healer. I want to break down, I'm a big fan of using language and really defining what words mean, because I think over time, when we repeat words, we lose the meaning of them, right? And so how many people know what the word doctor means? Most people will assume doctor means healer, right? And it actually doesn't. It comes from the Latin word docere, which means to teach, right? And now I ask you, how many people are learning and being taught things, taught how to live, taught how to be healthy in their doctor's office? Well, they're not, right? I've been there. My family, I have so many people that walk into our office that have learned nothing in their doctor's office. And they have been under the impression that the doctor is the healer. What I'm telling you is the patient is ultimately the healer. The doctor is simply the guide or the teacher. So I can only heal myself in my life. I can't heal my wife, can't heal my children. I can guide them, I can teach them, but ultimately they're responsible for taking steps in their life to bring their health back. And why wouldn't you want to be responsible for your own health, right? For some people, that's a big pill to swallow, right? Because you can't blame anyone anymore. But if you really break it down, this is the most empowering position to be in, because that means all you got to do is change, right? So the answer, what we want to do is make sure that we understand who is creating the healing, right? And understand that healthy people will change and heal the world. Sick people will only lead us to a sicker world. This is why this is such a necessity, right? Look at the times we live in, where people are afraid to go outside because everyone is being told they're at risk of getting sick. Well, you're only at risk of getting sick if you're not healthy. And that's what all the research and data says. But here we are with healthy people afraid, right? Which essentially will make them sick. So the answer isn't going to be to have more patients see more doctors, but instead to empower patients through education and wisdom, so we don't need more doctors in hospitals, okay? So over the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to cover timeless principles that'll help you create an abundant health and live your legacy, okay? Now, what I mean by timeless principles is that the information I share with you in this program that we run is timeless. It's not the fad of the week. It's not going to change in 4 or 5 weeks or 4 years. But it's been timeless. It's been proved against time that this information lasts. It stood the test of time, okay? And what we want you to do is be able to apply these principles and have you live your best life, not leave your best life behind, okay? So one of the first principles that I want you to understand is that everybody is unique, okay? Now, when we gain weight, we tend to gain the weight in different areas. So some of you might have different physical representations of your weight. And so what that means is you'll carry weight in different places, although you have the same body weight. So the scale might look the same, but the weight's distributed in different areas. And so what happens is when we start looking at this, when we start looking at body shapes, we can actually see clues as to what's going on with the body, like where there's a lack of balance or what might be imbalance that's creating someone to gain weight in very specific areas. Now, when we do this, what we will see is what is imbalanced, right? But that's not going to tell us why it's become imbalanced. And that is actually more important, okay? Because the why is the solution. The what doesn't tell you what led to that problem. So every time you think you know something, you should ask, well, why did this happen, right? So for example, if someone's got a thyroid problem, they're going to tend to gain weight on their hips and midsection and have a specific shape of a body, right? However, that doesn't tell us why their thyroid became a problem. It just tells us that, well, they likely have a thyroid problem, but that's not a solution, right? So what we want to do is just honor this idea that each of us is unique, and when things become out of balance, there's a way to bring back balance, okay? The other principle I want you to understand is that most weight loss programs fail. The reason why they fail is because of these very next points I'm going to make. The first one is because they focus on diet and exercise only. And I kind of mentioned this in my intro, is that I can prove to you why this is false. If you know anyone who doesn't eat, maybe because they're stressed or they don't have time, or maybe they just don't value food, right? They're not eating at all, yet most of these people continue to gain weight. So even if they just walk to their car every day and they're not eating, they're creating a calorie deficit, right? If eating less, exercising more was the solution, all of these people would lose weight. But in my experience, what you see is they tend to gain weight over time, usually around the belly. And so when you're focusing on these two things, you're missing out most of the aspects of these individuals' lives that really, really matters, okay? Another reason why most weight loss programs fail is they do not reset the hormone cascade. So what I mean by this is that no hormone functions in isolation, but instead they work as a symphony. And the key here is not to measure every hormone, but rather look at the whole picture, right? And when you look at the whole picture, what we have to learn from that scenario is how to reset and fix the whole picture, right? Not simply to address what we see going on, but how do we fix the entire picture? We have to keep that in mind, okay? They do not consider the subconscious mind. This is a really, really big factor why a lot of programs fail. So I'll explain to you what the subconscious mind is and why this is important. So in our mind, we have essentially two sections of the mind, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, right? The subconscious mind is essentially a programming that runs our behaviors that we're not necessarily choosing, right? It dictates our behavior, whereas our conscious mind, that's where we do our active thinking from, okay? So if you've ever driven to work and never thought of which lane you were going to drive in, but you got to work and you're like, oh, geez, I never even remembered getting off the highway. Well, that was your subconscious mind that drove you to work that day, right? So I'll give you an example where your subconscious mind becomes very important. Imagine you're a child or you have a child, right? So let's say you're 18 months old or 8 months old and you're crying, and your mother, who cares about you as a child, says, well, I want my child to stop crying, so I'm going to feed them something sweet, right, to eat, knowing that that will likely soothe the child and they'll stop crying. And so the mom does give the child something sweet, the baby stops crying, right? Now, we have to zoom back a little bit and look at what's actually happening and what's the programming that's given. Now, the act of the mother wanting to care for the child is the right frequency. And what I mean by frequency is that's done out of love, okay? So that love frequency gets programmed into this child. But what happens is the thing that they also taught the child is that love, right, may come in the form of eating things that may be not necessarily healthy for you. So now as an adult, because your subconscious mind gets programmed when you're a child, and as an adult, you just relive these experiences. As an adult, every time this person gets stressed or feels emotional, what they do is they then try to eat their love, right? And this is where the emotional programming, the frequency of love was correct, but the behavior attached to it was wrong. Okay. And this is why some people self-sabotage. It's because their subconscious mind is operating from a faulty program. And most programs, most weight loss programs, do nothing in regards to addressing this part of their life. Okay. A lot of programs fail because they focus on too much weight. Now, this is very problematic because it's so one-dimensional, right? When you're just looking at the needle on a scale to move, you're neglecting all the other benefits that you may be receiving. So you may be tuning out that, oh my God, my energy has increased, my sleep has improved, my skin has cleared up, my relationships are better, my job, I just got a promotion because I'm not tired at work, I'm more focused. And so people will miss all of that and focus strictly on pounds lost, okay? And a lot of that is because most programs are only designed to give you the pounds lost. So they don't have another they don't have another measurement for success. Whereas what we're trying to do is create a new system, a new healthy person, which all of those other things, that's kind of my hidden agenda actually, is the weight is just like the tip of the iceberg. That's the icing on the cake. All of the other things you get by going through this process is where I love to see the transformations that take place in people's lives. Now, another reason why most programs fail is because they do not increase resilience and stress tolerance. Actually, most programs add more stress to your life. They decrease your resilience. So what I mean by resilience is this concept of how much can you tolerate? How much can you respond to in a healthy manner? And if you think about it, most of our society is chronically stressed, right? So if an individual is barely treading water in their life in terms of how well they're managing their stress, how much is exercise or a boot camp going to help that individual? Because exercise is also a stressor. Okay, so now if you add another stressor to someone who's barely keeping afloat, you're going to drown them. Right? And I've seen this over and over and over in my practice is people who have all the right intentions, they start all the right things that they've been told to do. And what happens is they either get injured or they can't go back to the gym because they feel so sore, or they just break down in some other way. Usually it'll actually cause their weight to go up and they just get defeated, right? It's because they're not addressing the big thing and the elephant in the room, which is their stress and their lack of resilience to stress. So one of the things we do in this program, and I will go through this a little later on, is teach how to build resilience to stress, okay? So there's also no accountability or not enough accountability. So if you've never had an accountability partner, or if you've had an accountability partner, you know how valuable it is because they keep you on task, right? If you've had a personal trainer, and even if you were tired, you're still going to show up for that training session. Whereas if it's just yourself, you'll do what I used to do and you'll lie to yourself and make an excuse, right? And so having accountability is a priceless thing to have. It's so important to know that someone's going to be checking up on you and asking you how you're doing, right? Now, most programs also fail because they are way too superficial and short-term focused. Now, it's okay to have a short-term goal, but if your goals aren't extended long-term, then ultimately once you pass that time frame, so like if you have a trip in 2 weeks, you want to lose 10 pounds, I mean, what do you think is going to happen after 2 weeks? You're going to go back to the life you used to live. What happens then? Weight comes back, right? Because remember what I said, the body doesn't make a mistake. The expression of whatever health you're getting right now is the right expression for how you're living, right? And many of these programs that fail are unsustainable. The reason why they're unsustainable is because they're just a program, right? They're not a lifestyle. And what we're doing different with this is we're creating a brand new lifestyle, okay? So I'm going to take you through the 3 overlooked causes. So the 3 overlooked causes, number 1, is balanced hormones. Now the number 2 is sympathetic dominance. I'll go into this a little later on, but this is a very, very important concept. The third one is optimized lifestyle and diet. Now, it's not that these things are just overlooked, but they may not be being addressed, quantified, or even emphasized during a program. And so they just tend to get passed by as not the real reason why someone may have weight gain or weight loss resistance or stress or all these other things, okay? Now, the first one is balanced hormones. So a hormone is a chemical messenger in our body that regulates mood, appetite, metabolism, body temperature, energy, and more, okay? A chronically imbalanced lifestyle creates imbalanced hormones. So now I say imbalanced, but remember what I said, the expression of whatever you're getting in your life right now is not wrong. So this is the right expression. The problem was the imbalance existed in our lifestyle. Okay, so that mismatch of how we live our life. For example, we are designed to live a life that is short-term stress, long-term rest. That's the fundamentals of building health. But we live long-term stress, short-term rest. The exact opposite. If you live that lifestyle, you will create a lot of stress hormones, which means you are going to gain weight, right? You're going to create more of an imbalance in all your hormones and in your brain and in your thought processes, which is a poor outcome for you, okay? Now, we have to understand that our hormones fluctuate on a daily basis, monthly basis, and as we age. So when I was younger, in my 20s, I thought I was indestructible. And as I've aged, I've learned I'm not indestructible. And it's not that you're not indestructible, but this is the beauty of aging with time, is that with time you also gain wisdom. And so that you start to learn that certain things are only going to cause harm, and you need to make better choices in certain areas of our lives to grow from them, instead of just plowing through headfirst in every situation of your life, because it's not going to work for a long time. So there's the two most important hormones to balance are, I will ask if anyone can guess. And again, you can put it into the comments, and I'll wait to see if anyone can guess the right hormones. So there's two hormones that we need to balance. Does anyone have a guess as to what they are? Just type them into the comments. Anyone brave enough? No idea. Okay, I will tell you then. They are cortisol and insulin. So if you've never heard of these, this is a big deal, because cortisol is your hormone that is your major hormone produced in periods of stress. Insulin is also produced in that time, but insulin is involved mostly in blood sugar regulation, okay? Which, if you can't control your blood sugar, is a form of stress, okay? So now when you look at these hormones are really critical to your overall health and wellness. But what's really nice is when you balance one of them, you'll balance the other, okay? So I'm going to take you through what exactly cortisol and insulin are involved in, okay? We'll start with cortisol first. So with cortisol, the effects of cortisol are to bring mental clarity. It's involved in immune health. It's involved in food choices. So when you have a balanced cortisol level, you make better food choices. Okay. When not, you tend to eat sugary stuff. It helps with digestion. It helps with blood sugar. It helps with sleep and recovery, mood changes, motivation, bone health, insulin resistance. And again, I started at mental clarity. So you see how this hormone impacts everything, right? And so if you look at it, the good thing is that for each of these issues, there's a drug and probably a supplement to address all of these, right? But what you have to ask yourself, is that the solution you want? Is to simply take something for every single thing that could go wrong with you? I don't think that's a smart idea. And so we'll go through what insulin does. So insulin's involved in weight gain, aches and pains, high cholesterol. So typically when you see people with high cholesterol, it's a dead giveaway that they don't regulate their blood sugar very well. And why that happens, I'll just quickly go through this because I'll do a high overview because this is a really detailed scenario. But what happens is when your body can't make energy from carbohydrates, it's going to, have a secondary and a third and a fourth plan, because there's a rule within a cell that if it can't make energy for a period of 15 seconds, the cell will die, right? So every other function becomes reprioritized to make energy. Okay, so you got 15 seconds. If you're not making it from sugars, which you need insulin to do, so if you're becoming insulin resistant, the sugar is actually stuck outside the cell. Now you can't metabolize it. Your body's going to turn to burning fat. How do we move fat from one area of the body to a different cell or a different area? Is in your blood. And so you have fat being shuttled around in all these vehicles, which end up showing up on your blood tests. And this is why people's cholesterol goes high. And it's often just said, well, you have a disease now and we need to give you a drug to lower your cholesterol. This is why people that go on those drugs, then their energy completely tanks. Okay, so we have to understand that everything that's happening within you is simply showing us what's happening on a deeper level. It's a symptom, not a disease. Okay, so your insulin can lead to high cholesterol. It's involved in blood pressure regulation, mood changes, cancer and aging, diabetes, low libido. So again, it's involved in every aspect of your health. And what I want you to see is that you cannot just disregard how important these hormones are or how they're connected. So these two hormones, because they're involved in so many areas of the body, can wreak havoc on your body. Okay, insulin impacts every system. What you will see more and more now in our society is more and more people with neurodegenerative diseases, so brain issues, which are an extension of a complication of diabetes, right? So in our neighborhood where we live, there's a new dementia home that's being built, or the second phase is being built. I can't remember, but it's open. But what happens is there's actually a term for Alzheimer's, and it's type 3 diabetes. Okay, so we've known for a long time the impacts of insulin resistance and how it's going to impact the brain. So if we want to improve these aspects of our health and our community, then we need to start fixing these problems at the root cause, not at the end, okay, and just dealing with a symptom. So it's essential with insulin, it's a storage hormone. And if someone who's a pre-diabetic, right, or a diabetic never learns to regulate their insulin, they will find it very, very difficult to lose weight, okay? Now, this is a big problem in our society. Why? Because you have lots of diabetics and pre-diabetics, okay? So I'm going to take you through a case study, and I want you to meet Sarah, okay? So Sarah is not the real name of this individual, nor is the picture, but this is a case study of a metabolic reset hero, okay? I'll take you through Sarah's journey. So Sarah is a 60-year-old female, and she had tried everything for decades to lose weight and control her blood sugars. I actually knew this person for a long time, and she had worked with trainers. She had spent 4 or 5 days a week minimum at a gym, tried other weight loss programs, but very little success, okay? Her doctors took her down the conventional path of drugs, so metformin. She was actually on insulin injections as well. And this path is not the road we want to be on, but then again, her natural practitioners or natural health practitioners loaded her up on a bunch of supplements. Neither of them really moved her towards health, okay? She was already eating clean and avoiding carbs, so that wasn't the thing to address. Remember, diet is one aspect of getting better. And so when her doctor moved her from just oral medications like metformin to insulin, that was a dead giveaway that she was getting worse, right? And so what happened was over time, her weight kept getting higher, kept on climbing due to the higher and higher amounts of insulin that were being dumped into her system. Now, with this happening, what happened was, what you have to understand is there's 70 million people suffering from prediabetes in North America alone. Now, remember what I said, most of those people will go on to develop neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, right? So once your doctor takes you down this road, that is meant to be a short-term road. And again, going down that road of metformin and insulin injections might be short-term to save your life, but what ends up happening is in our society, we just keep people on that for the rest of their life, okay? And this is really because no one's addressing the problem from the root cause, okay? And what we have to do is start moving that in that direction of uncovering what the root cause of the problem is. And so one of the things we wanted to look at with uncontrolled blood sugar is, where is the stress in this person's life coming from? So when we look at cortisol and insulin, what we wanted to do is, because cortisol and insulin, remember what I said, are so tied together, is that we wanted to fix one of these, reset one of them, because the other one will pair and reset itself, okay? So what I'm showing you in this diagram is something called your hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, or your HPA axis. This is how we control our hormones. Remember I said hormones work in a symphony, not in isolation. And so actually, to produce one hormone, it has to be signaled by another hormone to be released, right? Everything works together. Now, your hypothalamus is a part of your brain, which is basically it works as part of the brain which is constantly sensing for threats in our environment, okay? And as it's doing that, its job is to keep you safe. And when there's a threat detected, right, whether it's real or not, this is where stress comes in and mindset comes into this, is because whether it's real or just a thought, it creates a response. It signals for your pituitary gland to release a chemical called ACTH, which then goes to your adrenal glands, which is where, so there's an anterior like there's two parts to your adrenal glands. One is going to make your cortisol, the other is going to make your other stress chemicals called your epinephrine, norepinephrine. And when under stress, your hypothalamus signals your pituitary gland, and that triggers a release of your stress chemicals from your adrenals. Then your body gets a flood of cortisol, okay? Now, every time that happens, you can gain weight, especially if this signal is constantly being triggered, okay? And if it's constantly being triggered, you're constantly getting a dose of cortisol, which is not a bad thing if it's a short-term stressor, because what that means is cortisol will allow you to survive that event. But if it is a long-term thing where it's constantly that button's being pushed, excess cortisol makes you gain weight around your belly. Okay, so in men it's around their waist, so you get that tire, and in women it's around their waist and hips. Okay, so think of it like this: if you've ever been in a car accident, right? And say 5 years later, it was maybe a serious car accident, you drive by the same intersection and you start to feel stressed, your palms maybe start to sweat, and you start to feel shaky. Well, there's a reason why that's happening, is because your brain's perceiving the danger you went through in that situation before in the same area. And it actually is making you relive the entire event. So through your blood is all the chemical signatures of that stressful event happening again. Okay, and that is how strong and how important these responses are. Okay, so what our goal is to reset this hypothalamus to only send these signals at the appropriate time. Okay, so what did we do for this case? So the Functional Health Institute's approach was, one, what we first did was listened very carefully to Sarah's story. There's a very telling statistic that says, I read this in a journal, that says that the length of time it takes for a patient to start speaking at their doctor's office before they're interrupted is only 13 seconds, right? Which is astonishing. But when I read this, I wasn't actually that surprised, because when I sit with my patients and actually give them the time to tell their story, it typically ends in tears, because I'm the first person who's actually listened, right? This is the most important part of helping someone, is letting them tell their story, really understanding who they are and where they came from and what things have happened in their life to kind of get them to where they are. And most people turn that off and don't want to hear it. But so giving Sarah the time to actually tell her story was very, very important. And then what we did with her is we started in our metabolic reset program, and we focused on balancing cortisol. And by doing that, we were able to reduce her insulin resistance. And I'll share a testimonial from her. So when we did that, we were also working on resetting her HPA access through very specific strategies. So we had a strong emphasis on sleep, improving her sleep through sleep timing and sun exposure. We cut out intense exercise and refocused on gentler activities. So remember what I said about exercise. When you're really stressed, what does it do? It crashes the system. And so the first thing we did is say, no more exercise, because our job right now is to pull away all the stressors, not add more. And so we put her on a strategic fasting and organic meal plan. And then we coached her through the whole process and taught her how to celebrate her success. Okay. And when we did all that, here's kind of the results. So this is a message from Sarah. So it says, started my journey 11 weeks ago. I've lost 22 pounds and lots of inches. I feel great. I'm sleeping better. Blood sugars are all in range. No more insulin. Okay. I journal daily, and I'm working hard to make positive changes to set goals for my new and improved future. So look at this person, right? I don't know if you know this, but if you read any medical textbook, they will say it's impossible to reverse diabetes, but here's someone who did. And actually, if I tell you how short of a time she did this in, was actually less than 2 weeks. She was off insulin and off her metformin, also off her cholesterol medication. And she was able to do this because she was tracking her blood sugar with a 24-hour blood glucose monitor. But these types of results are nothing short of spectacular. And look what I said at the beginning. The weight loss is great, right? But look at all the other things she gained in the process. Her sleep improved. Her blood sugars are now in range. Does she have to worry about having Alzheimer's, dementia, neurodegenerative diseases? Not likely, right? And she's learning what it takes to live the life she's always wanted for her new future, right? So very, very powerful, and in a short time. Okay, these results are not uncommon. This is what we see kind of across the board. Okay, the reason why this worked is because we went as far upstream as we could and addressed her HPA access, which meant we had to address her stress. Okay, I'll give you another little snippet of this individual's case. She had a bit of attachment, let's say, to material things. So the actual word is hoarder. So she was keeping all of these things in her life that she thought they had emotional value to them, but there wasn't. And so when we had, a discussion of like, when you hold on to these things in your life, these emotions that you think are stored in, papers and trophies and awards and stuff that you never even look at. The reason why some people keep them is because it gives them that sense of self, that sense of I'm doing the right thing in my life, even though it doesn't give you any gratification. So her holding on to them was significant because she was also holding on to her weight. And when we started getting rid of these things, guess what happened to her weight? It started to drop. Okay, it wasn't easy, but she made the right choices and did the right things. And because we went upstream high enough to deal with the stress, we kind of balanced two hormones at the same time. And here's the results. Okay. So when you balance your hormones, the key is we have to balance insulin resistance, okay, which means you need to improve your blood sugar regulation. We needed to improve sleep, not only in terms of her sleep quantity, but also the quality. So the reality is if you're not getting a deep sleep, a restorative sleep, it doesn't matter how many hours you get, because your healing takes place during deep sleep. And so you cannot heal, you will not heal, you will not lose weight without the right amount and the right quality sleep. So how do you know if your sleep is poor? Well, tell me how you feel when you wake up. Okay, if you wake up and you don't feel refreshed and you can't jump out of bed, your sleep quality sucks. And when that is the case, you need to know how to fix this. And if you aren't fixing this, you cannot heal, right? So it doesn't matter what health issues you have. Weight loss is maybe one of them, right? But if you have other health issues like autoimmune conditions and things like that, that healing takes place when you sleep. And if you can't get into that recovery state, it's not going to happen. You also have to eat balanced meals, right? With this, we had some organic meals that were all in, we used then strategic intermittent fasting. We reduced overall weight, which helps balance your hormones. And then working with a coach is really, really beneficial because there's a lot to learn in the process of doing these things, right? And the reality is some of the things that you're going to learn through this webinar, you could probably Google them, right? But how do you apply them into your life, right? All the information that the world has is out there already online. You know, you don't have to go to a school to learn this stuff, but the importance is how do you apply it into your life and how do you act on it quickly? What I always tell people is it took me 10 years to learn this and implement it into my life. And it's a journey that I'm always learning new things. And so when someone starts to work with me, essentially I just work as a time machine. And we try to teach what it took me 10 years to learn in 10 weeks, right? That is the power of using a coach. It's time. And time is the only resource you have in your life that is valuable. It's not money. If you think money is more valuable than time, tell me when someone says, you know, tomorrow's your last day, if you can buy your way out of that. Can't, right? So we have to start valuing time for what it is. Now, the second overlooked cause is called sympathetic dominance. Now, what this means is chronic stress, chronic engagement of your fight or flight response, okay? So to highlight this, I'm going to take you through another case. So I want you to meet Jen, who again, is not the real name of this person, but neither is the picture, but is another metabolic reset hero. I want to walk you through some of her background so you can get to know her. But Jen was someone who lived under a lot of stress, okay? She was working in a job that was robbing her of her own personal freedoms. Now, how many people feel like their job is actually limiting them from living their best life? So hopefully what you'll see through this example is how sympathetic dominance can really wreak havoc on your health. So she was a cancer survivor, but she always had fear of her cancers returning. The reason why is because during her cancer treatments, she gained 30 pounds. And although she was a cancer survivor, because she couldn't lose this 30 pounds, it was always like every time she looked in the mirror, it was this constant reminder of the fact that she had cancer and that it may come back because the weight was still there. She knew that it's not healthy to have 30 pounds extra weight, but despite working with doctors and other trainers, she couldn't lose it. Okay. And now what I want you to know is her lack of results didn't come from a lack of effort or support. She just didn't have the steps, and she didn't have those steps in the right order to change the situation. So nothing had worked, but she had a very supportive husband who encouraged her to continue her quest. Now, with her, with anyone with stress, what you want to do is understand the sympathetic nervous system. I'm going to walk you through what is called our autonomic nervous system. Okay, so your autonomic nervous system is what is the nervous system that controls all your automatic functions. So think of it like this. When you set your heartbeat, your heart rate when you sleep, do you decide what it is? Do you set a timer? No, it just does it, right? When you decide your blood pressure, do you decide it or does it just respond? It responds. All these things are controlled without our thinking about the process, okay? Now, your autonomic nervous system has two branches. One is called your sympathetic dominance, your sympathetic division. This is the left side of the screen, okay? This is your fight or flight response. And then you have your opposite side of the nervous system called your parasympathetic division. This is the side that lets you rest, digest, restore, regenerate, revive, reproduce, restore your body. So essentially, it's all about healing, okay? Now, you need to be able to engage both sides. But what I want to tell you is that you can only engage one side at a time. This isn't something where you can be, well, I want to do both. No, it doesn't work that way. It's like a light switch. Either your lights are on or they're off. They're not in between, okay? Now, why is this important? Why is this fight or flight response important? Is because what I mentioned this earlier, is we tend to live as a society under chronic stress. And so what that means is we're chronically or always engaging this fight or flight response, which is meant to be a short-term situation. Now, when you live in a fight or flight response, your physiology changes. Every part of your physiology changes to allow you to survive that stressful event. Now, every stressful event, doesn't matter if you step on a nail, you get in a car accident, you got lots of bills due, your job is maybe being taken away, your relationship sucks. All of those are stressors, right? However, every stressor your body will go through is interpreted as a bear chasing you. And so the response doesn't change depending on what the stress is. The response is, we need to survive a bear. This is what you need to do. And so think about it. If your body is constantly trying to survive a bear, what functions is it going to fuel? Muscle, right? So what it does is it takes blood flow away from your organs, shunts it to your muscles so you can move. And actually, blood flow will change in your brain from your frontal cortex to your midbrain. And so your thinking patterns, your ability to think will actually be diminished under periods of stress. Okay, so instead of being able to logically think and problem solve, you'll reflexively think. And so what that means is you essentially don't think, right? So think of if a car was driving towards you and it starts to veer off the road and you're on the curb, you don't think of what direction should I move, you move, right? And there's a reason why you're set up that way. But when the car is gone and the stress of the car almost killing you is gone, what happens? Blood flow goes back to where it's supposed to go, okay? So when we stay prolonged in a state of stress, we drive blood flow to our muscles and we take it away from our organs. And so the rule is where you send blood flow, you send function. Where you take blood flow away from, you turn off function. So now all of your organ systems function diminishes, okay? So your digestive system gets shut off. Your reproduction system gets shut off. All of these things keep on getting diminished. The longer it stays that way, the less function you get out of them. So what we had to do with this individual is teach her how to engage her parasympathetic nervous system, okay? And so when we are under a lot of stress, what we have to understand is we're always going to have stressful events. It's not the stress itself that's the problem, it's our response to the stressor, right? It's our perspective on what's happening. And when we're in a certain perspective, we'll see as it like maybe a direct threat to us, but is it really? Okay. Now, when we started teaching her strategies to turn off her fight or flight response and engage the parasympathetic side, what you start to see is very quickly her body starts to regain function. So I'll give you an example of one way of doing this is simply to breathe deeply through your belly. Okay. If you want to follow along with me, if you want to put your hand here on your chest and you take a very big deep breath. So ready, take a big inhale. And you breathe out. Now, if you have a mirror in front of you, or if you just look down at your hand, if you feel your hand coming up like this, you can see my hand move, right? When you take a deep inhale, that's a sign that you're in a chronic stress response. Why? Because typically when you breathe, if you're resting and relaxing, you're breathing through your diaphragm, your hand shouldn't move on your chest. Chest breathing is stress breathing. Okay, the body leaves clues. And the thing is, like, most people aren't taught what these things actually mean. They just think it's normal, right? If you've ever seen someone go through a panic attack, how do they breathe? Right? They're gasping for air, no matter how hard they try, because their diaphragm isn't moving. And actually, how you actually breathe is you breathe through your diaphragm. Your diaphragm moves down into your abdomen, which sucks air into your lungs, into the deepest part of your lungs. And then it pushes everything, it squeezes the lungs up and compresses the lungs to exhale this air. So how do we engage our diaphragm is through our vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a nerve that comes off your brainstem, and it controls the whole parasympathetic side. So the whole branch of your nervous system for rest, digest, repair, reproduce, for healing is controlled by this one nerve. So we had very specific strategies that we taught this individual how to engage this side. And when you do start to engage this side, you start to allow that person to start accessing fuel in a different way. Okay? So the Functional Health Institute's approach to this case was, again, one, when we started, we listened carefully to Jen's story. Okay? We started her in our metabolic and lifestyle reset program. So I'm gonna give you a little fact that I think is really important. Most people who gain weight, so they have extra fat on their body, right, also have fatigue. And if you think of what fat is an energy storage. Okay, so they have no energy, but they have all of this energy stored on their body. And what this is like is, imagine you have $1 million in your bank account, but you don't have the right PIN code for your debit card, so you can't access the money. That's how these people are living. The reason why they don't have any energy is because they can't access the energy that's stored in their fat. It's just locked away from them, even though they probably have enough energy for 3 or 4 people. Okay, so part of the idea of resetting this HPA axis is to then reset that password so they can gain that energy, so they can start burning that energy. Okay, so we listened to Jen's story very carefully. We started her in our metabolic lifestyle reset program, and then we started her on refocusing her mindset towards gratitude. So when you start focusing on things that you're grateful for, your life tends to have more things for you to be grateful for, right? You start building gratitude when you focus on it, right? Whereas people who focus on lack will only see what they're lacking in their life, okay? So we focused on heart math training to build resilience and balance her central nervous system, which is that HPA axis, okay? Now, we got her to connect with nature more and help her activate her right brain, which is the creative part of her brain, okay? We cut out all intense exercise and focused on recovery, so rest. We put her on a strategic fasting and organic meal plan, and we taught her how to start celebrating life and her successes. The amazing thing is there was no labs. We didn't have to do anything like that, and she didn't take any pills to achieve this. There was no constant shakes or anything like that. So one of the things she had mentioned to us when she started is that, for her, every dollar counts. And what, for me, this was important because it's also that way for me. And so I don't, as a principle, for me, I always try to deliver the most value we can, with that in mind, that, this isn't, this is why we don't sell you any other things in this program. There's no more supplements. There's nothing else that you need to buy. There's no shakes. You're not renewing, constant source of supplies that you need to live this lifestyle. It's simply changing your life and developing the skills that will lead to the success, right? So either You can develop new skills, or you can keep buying pills, right? I would suggest we start developing the skills and avoid the pills, whether they're medications or supplements, okay? Now, I mentioned in this that we did heart math, so I'm going to go through what heart math really is. So with heart math, this is a tool that allows us to see how this individual's nervous system is functioning. What state are they in? Fight or flight, or rest, digest, and repair? And as you practice this through certain breathing techniques, you start to build resilience. So resilience is this term that, a good analogy to understand it is like this. So imagine that your stress is going into a bucket, and it's filling a bucket. And when you start to really get stressed, this bucket starts to overflow with your stress, and it's pouring all over the floor. It's spilling everywhere. Now that is a state of where someone may be having panic attacks, for example, okay? When you practice heart coherence, but when you start building resilience, what you essentially are doing is creating a bigger bucket, right? And so the cool thing is when you learn how to activate your parasympathetic nervous system and you can stay on that side, you still need to go back and forth, but when you can stay on the parasympathetic side, which is that repair side, that healing side, it actually allows you to respond to your stress more efficiently, right? Now, what you see on this picture is over here. This is the electrical signal of someone who's in a state of stress, okay? And what you see over here is the same pattern of someone who is calm, someone who's in a healing state. So how heart math works is there's this device you see on your screen on the right side here, which clips to your ear, and it's measuring the electrical frequencies between your brain and your heart, but it's actually measuring the spaces between their heartbeats. And when someone has a lot of variation between those spaces, that's someone who's in a state of healing. So think of the emotions that are tied to healing. It's love. So when you feel safe, when you feel loved, when you feel cared for, that is the state you need to be in to cause healing. When you're angry, resentful, feeling guilty, hateful, all those draining emotions put you on the other side where you see that very jagged pattern, okay? So what we did was we taught her how to use this, and what happens is when you start practicing it, you start to be able to move yourself into that parasympathetic state, which looks like this, right? And over time, when you do this, you start engaging that nervous system more and more. And what you see is you can do it on demand, right? Now think of it. When you do this, this impacts all aspects of your biology, all aspects of your health. So if you want to you want to be more focused, you need to learn how to do this. You want to be more clear-minded when you're at work, you need to learn how to do this. You want to be more creative, you want to be a better problem solver, you need to know how to do this. You want to activate your digestive system to avoid your bloating and all your cramps, then you need to learn how to do this. You want to balance your hormones, you need to learn how to do this. This rapidly shifts your physiology, okay? So I actually use this tool with the professional athletes I see. So I see athletes from the NHL and all different organizations, but this is one of the most heavily utilized tools I use with these people, is because for them especially, what I want you to know is that they don't have any shortage of money. They can buy all the pills they want, right? But I know this is what's going to take them to the next level. And so this is why I'm teaching everyone in this program also how to do this, okay? So this idea of heart math has been around since the 70s. There's no topic that has more research on this, on how to affect your physiology than heart math. It's quite amazing, actually. And when you start using this, you start to really, really see changes in your physiology. So here, I'm going to share with you a message from Jen. So finally hit the 30-pound weight loss mark this morning. It has been challenging as I'd hit a road bump along the way as I got off track after my trip. So far, So for a long while there, the scale wasn't budging and I was getting frustrated. So remember what I thought. What I want you to think of is, where do your thought patterns match this person? Because she had a lot of broken thought patterns, right? So she's hit her goal only looking at weight loss, right? But then she got frustrated because the needle wasn't moving, but she didn't see the other things. Now what she says here is, I hunkered down and am back on track and now seem to be on a roll, even while I go through super stressful environments at work. Because this was the reason why she thought she couldn't lose weight, because her work environment wasn't going to change. So a broken belief system replaced with a new one, and now she doesn't even see it as an obstacle, right? It's just she changed herself. The work thing still is the same, but it's not impacting her anymore. So challenge accepted just goes to show that anything is possible if you commit and do the work. Okay, so it's exactly what she says. If you commit and do the work, anything is possible. What I always tell people is, get rid of what you think is impossible, right? You shouldn't have that idea. So be careful who you believe. If someone tells you you can't do something and you believe them, then it's true. What you have to be very careful about is who you put your faith in. And I would suggest you put it in yourself and listen to people who tell you what you believe matters. Because whether you believe it's true or not true, if something's impossible or possible, either one you believe is going to be right, right? And I would always suggest, what do you need to believe in? So when you're trying to achieve balance, these are the things that we discuss, and they're all aimed at priming that parasympathetic nervous system, meaning we're trying to turn off that fight or flight response, meaning that there's less stress on the body, meaning you can heal. Okay, so what we wanted to do with this individual is have her spend more time in nature. Okay, nature is very important because it's healing on its own. Okay, all you need to do is be there. We've evolved on this planet in that environment. Now we've become very disconnected from that environment. If you think about, if someone comes to me with low vitamin D, I can tell you how they live. They don't have any outdoor time. They're toxic from sitting indoors, toxic from sitting under blue lights. They're toxic from lack of activity, right? It's not, taking vitamin D is not going to help that individual. Instead, they need to start changing the way they live. So we trained her through heart math training to build resilience, right? To minimize her stress. We removed toxic relationships, right? This is a very, very big thing. There's Jim Rohn said that you will be the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So we need to choose very, very wisely. And sometimes there's people in our inner circle that don't have a real purpose, and they're actually just holding you back from your life that you want. And so it's okay to remove people, okay? Especially if they're toxic. We eliminated inflammatory foods because these are a stressor on the system. You can take adaptogenic herbs to balance the stress response, okay? We did deep work on mindset and her limiting beliefs. That's why we got over that idea of you can't be productive or healthy in a chronically stressful work environment. That was just a limiting belief, okay? And we improved her sleep, taught her how to get deep sleep. When she started getting deep sleep, her body started healing. And guess what the beauty of that is when do you think most of the weight comes off? While you sleep, right? The only thing better than that is getting paid while you sleep, right? And so this is the magic of when we create balance in the body, it starts to do the things we've always wanted it to do. So we're going to go on to the next one. The third overlooked cause of weight gain, a snail-paced metabolism, and low energy or fatigue is lifestyle and environment. So this is the last thing I'm going to go through. But then I want to wrap things up and go through some question and answers. So stay tuned till the end because you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, okay? So I'm going to plug through this and go as fast as I can. So I share this image with you, the image of the succulents, because there's a rule that you cannot negotiate with nature. So think of it like this. If I have these plants growing in my house, they need very specific requirements, right? They need a certain amount of water and a certain amount of light. If I'm going away on holidays, I can't say to the plant, hey, I'm not going to give you that much water while I'm gone, but I'm going to give you double the sunlight. I'm just going to give you tons of sunlight and expect that to work, right? We have to meet this very specific requirements. Then and only then will you get the outcome you want. So there's no negotiating with nature. We follow the rules of nature, okay? So remember what I said, our environment dictates, is signaling to our body what we need. And our bodies are always looking for information from the environment to create a response. So one of the things we have to address is circadian rhythm. So this is basically how your hormones fluctuate throughout the day. Here we see two hormones, melatonin and cortisol. What you're going to see in cortisol is in red, and cortisol in the morning, it should spike, right? People will typically think that, oh, I'm so stressed out, my adrenals are fatigued, I don't want to produce any cortisol. No, you need to make cortisol. You just need to make it at the appropriate time in the right amount, right? You can't have it high all the time because you won't sleep. But for someone in the morning, you need a spike of cortisol because that's actually what gets you up out of bed feeling refreshed, right? So you see how you don't want to suppress cortisol all the time. Now, with melatonin, on the other hand, there's barely any throughout the day, okay? And then as the sun starts to go down in the evening, melatonin really starts to pick up and cortisol really starts to plummet, okay? So in the morning, you have cortisol, very little melatonin. At night, they switch and you get more melatonin and then you get very little cortisol. That's what you should have optimally. And all of this is dictated by where the sun is on our planet and where you are in relation to the sun and how much exposure to it you have, okay? Now, if your cortisol is high at night, you will not sleep, you will not get a deep sleep. If you don't produce enough melatonin, you will not get into deep sleep. This is why you see people, so with melatonin, it goes a little bit deeper because if you don't make it, you also won't make serotonin. This is why you see people who are on antidepressants are also on sleep medication at the same time, because it's the same process, right? And so that system's broken for the same reasons. So what I want you to understand is that we cannot negotiate these things, okay? We need a certain amount of light and a certain amount of darkness. And in this program, we go much, much deeper into this and how to actually fix this problem, okay? Now, I want to take you through another comment here. So I've passed day 40 and said goodbye to over 20 pounds. Booyah. Most of it has come off my stomach, which was my problem area. How many people would love to have the weight come off their problem area? I've learned how to reward myself without relying on food. And also how not to obsess about food and what I'm eating. Most importantly, I've learned the weight is a symptom and that it's really about having a healthy lifestyle wins all around. So do you see the things that this individual gained, right? It wasn't just weight loss, but what she really learned was how to properly reward herself because her reward system was programmed in her subconscious mind, right? And then she learned how to control her mindset and not to obsess about things so much. And it made her happier. And because she was happier, she lost 20 pounds in 40 days. Okay? Now, this is very, very important, is to understand that your state determines your weight. So if you don't have the right environment, mindset, friends, relationships, foods, etc., this will create a strain or a stress on the body, which will ultimately lead to poor health outcomes and weight gain. So I have a few more slides to get through. But what I want you to do is in the chat, type in your questions as we go, and we'll go from there, okay? So I'm going to break down what our program involves. So here's the Metabolic and Lifestyle Reset Program. What I hope now you're wondering is what is the fastest way for you to start feeling better again, and the fastest way to do this strategically, okay? What we also want to do is make this healing happen from the inside out, not from the outside in. So I'm a believer that I believe that there's a solution that exists within you and that you have the power to heal. I think all of us come into this life with the power to heal. Now, if you believe in yourself Okay. I want you to type yes in the chat. And what I also want you to do is, if you're not willing to type yes in the chat, think about why. Does that reflect that you don't have that belief in yourself, or is it a lack of commitment to your best life or to your best self? Okay. So I hope that each and every one of you can say, I believe in myself, and is typing yes. Okay. I'm going to take a look. Okay. I have a couple of yeses showing up. Any more yeses? Okay. Very good. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to also believe that you deserve better than what you have. You have to believe that there is a better life for you that you know you've been destined for. It's just no one taught you how to get there. Okay. So in our metabolic reset program, where we start is with a detailed history of listening to each person's case. What we then do is provide community. So this program actually is a group program. It all starts at the same time, and everyone gets coached together as a community. And my ultimate ambition and goal is to be able to have a group of people willing to support each other because they're going through a similar process, right? There's a reason why religions have communities or places of worship, is because you can all go to the same place to be surrounded by like-minded people. Why? Because you lift each other up, right? If the number one predictor of someone in our society who will not recover from an illness isn't their age, but it is the number one predictor is whether they have a sense of community or not. Isolation, that is the number one predictor. So people without a community, they don't get better. Okay. Coaching is really important because this is where transformations take place. Now, transformations are not transactions. They're one directional, right? So think of it like this. When a coach helps you transform, when a caterpillar goes to a butterfly, it doesn't go backwards, right? It stays a butterfly. It's not possible to go back. High performance lifestyle is really, really important. You can see how the way you live impacts your entire physiology. Your hormones get reset. We talked about that. We used intermittent fasting to help reset your system and even reset your sense of reward and how you reward yourself, right? This whole idea of understanding how to properly reward yourself and not sabotage yourself, but also like, what do people mean when they say things like cheat meals or treat, right? If something was a treat, then it should enhance your life, right? And if you have to call something a treat because you want, Dairy Queen ice cream, then I don't think we understand what the meaning of treat is, right? If we used the term what it is, let's say, well, I want to give myself a toxin or something that's inflammatory, that's going to make me sick, then is that a treat? In what way would you treat your child that way, right? We still do it because we use the wrong language, okay? So we have to become aware of the things that we've been taught to kind of use as words, but we have to re-understand what the meanings are behind those words. A treat is something that moves you in a positive direction, not something that temporarily fulfills a need because, again, we need to feel loved, right? So why is the metabolic and lifestyle reset program so unique? Well, one, it is a mental, physiological, and physical transformation. We are not dealing with one part of your life, but all aspects of your life, okay? It results in permanent results. Remember what I said, the butterfly can't go back to the caterpillar, okay? It addresses and corrects the underlying causes, not the symptoms. Remember what I said about being able to see where someone gained weight. That tells you what might be out of balance, but not how to fix it, okay? So we are always looking to address the underlying cause. It can be done remotely, so nobody has to be local to where I am. This is all done online. And so anybody across North America is where we're limiting this to, can take advantage of this program. Okay. It does not require any exercise to lose weight. Again, the reason why is because most of the people who are going to join us on this program have already tried that, right? And maybe not got the results they wanted, or there was the reason why they failed in the first place. Okay. So this program offers a supportive network and group accountability. Like I said, this is a group program. And so everyone has a specific starting date. And the way we structure it is at the beginning of a week, we'll have the coaching. There's 10 weeks of coaching and there's 10 weeks of live Q&A. So that happens once, one coaching session during the week. And then at the end of the week, there's a question and answer period. Everyone gets to ask their questions either in a group format or through me directly. They can contact me. And so you also eat real food and develop sustainable, healthy habits. Okay. So I'm going to read this out for you. I thought I would share my journey this far. It's been 12 days. I'm down 10 pounds, and as of this morning, while I'm struggling with a few buzzard health issues, Christmas eating out with family in a house full of treats, a few bad choices, I'm still down 10. Now, if I can lose 10 pounds in 12 days with health issues, tons of stress during Christmas, it's amazing. Thank you. But I want to highlight like the belief systems again, right? Can't be healthy. Why? Because it's Christmas. Well, what's going to happen with New Year's? What's going to happen for Valentine's Day? What's going to happen for April Fool's Day? Like, which month doesn't have a reason for you to not make the right decision for your life, right? It's always going to be there. And then being too busy, too stressful, too sick, right? Those are all broken belief systems. But what happened is if you can overcome them, even if you can just overcome them for a short period of time, you can move the needle in the right direction very, very quickly. And that's what this person gained. Okay. So when I break down the 10-week metabolic and lifestyle reset program, this is what's involved. Okay. You have a 30-minute comprehensive metabolic intake call. And this is where we basically go through your intake forms. We sit down and answer all your questions, but most importantly, listen to your story. Okay. Every week there's a live Facebook Q&A. There's health tips and accountability in our private Facebook group, which you would be added to. There's direct email access to me or Facebook Messenger access to me. There is a metabolic support spray, which is an oral spray and homeopathic spray that we use it's a specific formula that helps us rewire that HPA axis. So what it essentially does is acts as a software update to your central nervous system. So it helps with food cravings and resetting your stress response, things that we're actively trying to do throughout the program. So it helps us shift your metabolism very, very quickly. Okay. You also have our Inspired Living Lifestyle Guide. So this is my lifestyle guide from my 6-month program, our 6-month functional medicine program, that I'm also giving to you in this program. You get our metabolic reset recipe book, and you get a personal food scale. Okay. Now I'm going to go through some of the topics that we cover in these coaching calls and through this program. Here's some of them right now. So the intermittent fasting, we break that down in depth. Okay. We covered this over the 10 weeks. There's a whole hour session on intermittent fasting, the autonomic nervous system. So how to develop parasympathetic tone and how that creates healing. Okay. We train you on heart math, how to use the device, how to build resilience. We teach you how to improve your sleep, how to finally get deep sleep. We go through mindset mastery, which is really, really important, especially conquering those limiting beliefs. We activate your nervous system, parasympathetic movement. So moving in a way, so instead of boot camps or high intensity interval training, moving in a way that stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, not your fight or flight response. Okay. We go over the benefits of medicinal mushrooms. We optimize your digestive system, teach you how to create a healthy home, and improve our communication skills, and much, much more. So when it comes to communication skills, this is so vital, because if you're in a relationship where you're kind of growing apart, oftentimes it's communication. It's not bad people. Okay, so I found this as a big, big part of my life when it came to how do I want to be a father. What I realized is I needed to learn how to communicate love to my children, because guess what? For each person, that's a different process. And so we can't just apply the same process as a stamp and think we're going to affect another person or another individual, a child or a spouse, because we're using the same formula for everyone. Okay, it's very individualized. So learning how to do that is so important. Now, here's what the cost of our program is, the Metabolic Lifestyle Reset Program. There is one payment of $14.99 plus tax. When I was doing this as a one-on-one program, this was a $2,500 program plus tax. So when I started the idea of doing it as a group program, I was able to drop the price significantly, but still deliver a high level of service that I was proud of, that I could put my name behind. Or you can do two payments of $7.99 Canadian plus tax. Okay, you're gonna get at the end of this. I have a couple more slides to go to, a place to register. The two payment option isn't there. What you'll have to do is just send me a message and I'll arrange those options for you. But I want to go through some bonuses. Okay, for the first 10 people who sign up, which I've had a couple of spots kind of already taken by others. So I don't know if there's 10 now, but you're going to get very valuable bonuses that I'm going to walk you through. So bonus number one has $169 value, as I'm going to give you a inner balance heart math device so that you can start training your body to build this resilience very quickly. Okay, this tool helps you develop better sleep, lowers your stress, allows your body to regenerate and start healing. And we train you how to use this, how do you develop the skill, and then you continue this for the rest of your life. Okay. The second bonus has a $99 value, which each of you would get 50 sachets of organic coffee or organic green tea, which is infused with reishi mushroom. Now, reishi mushroom is a very powerful medicinal mushroom. It's an adaptogen with over 2,000 research studies done on its benefits. We include this because this is something that can impact your health in a very, very powerful, positive way. And we want to leverage it through drinking. So if you're a coffee drinker, we want you to, there's structure to the program where you would be intermittent fasting at some point, and the coffee is what you're going to use during that intermittent fasting time. And if you're not a coffee drinker, we would give you green tea. Okay. So this is a very, very awesome bonus. Everyone loves this coffee, by the way. So it tastes great. All you need is hot water. It's great for traveling because you don't need to go to Tim Hortons and buy crap, right? When you drink coffee, if it's not organic, what you have to understand is you're consuming a lot of pesticides. Pesticides screw up your microbiome and will actually make you gain weight. So we have to fix all these things. Bonus number 3 is a 5-minute gratitude journal. This is actually priceless. Okay, so gratitude has been shown to rewire the brain. This is a process called neuroplasticity. What happens when you write down things that you're grateful for is that more things show up in your life for you to be grateful for, right? So what are we doing is retraining our brain, creating a new brain by making it more neuroplastic, which means making more connections for gratitude, happiness, all those things, instead of fear, doubt, and all those negative things. Now, bonus number 4 is that you will always have lifetime access to this program. Okay, you will never be kicked out of our online private group on Facebook. And so whatever new information we add, you will have access to it. So my commitment to you is a lifetime, right? I'm creating a limitless, timeless commitment to you. And that's what I think helps people the most, is knowing that they'll always have access to help, whether it's in the sense of a community. But when you make a commitment to a process with me, then I definitely go back and make that commitment back. And so what I want to do is present you with this next slide is where you can actually register for this program. Our next launch date, our next group starting date will be, so the deadline will be the August the 3rd, I think, the Monday or Tuesday next week. The reason, so the reason why we have to have a deadline is because I have to have your starting kits shipped out to you within that week to wherever you live, or whatever side of the country you're on, within time for you to receive it and start. Okay. That's why we create a deadline, because you can't start without your starting kit, which has all of these valuable tools in it. Okay. So if you take a screenshot of this website address, it'll take you to the sales page where you can click the link and you can pay to register for this program. Now, what I want to do is remind you all to look forward to your future, commit to your vision, get a good night's sleep tonight. I want to send you all my love and positivity. I look forward to putting together all your reset kits and sending them out to you, and infusing that energy of love into all those kits. And I also want to share this last kind of story with you, because I think that in our lives, we don't take our leadership role very seriously. And I think that when you look just even within your home, you will have people that need your leadership. So there's a story from my culture of a religious person who is speaking to a bunch of yogis up in a mountain. So religious people who have decided they're going to isolate themselves to reach enlightenment. And so he goes up there and finds them, and he says, the world is burning and all the ones that can help are sitting up here alone. And so what I don't want is for us to be in the position to be sitting by ourselves when we have all the skills to help everyone else, right? And this is why I give up my time to present this information to you. So again, I hope that you found this information very valuable. I'm just going to throw up this last slide with the web address again, and you can all just take a screenshot of it or write it down, and you have access to the sales page. So again, get a good night's sleep, get to bed early, wake up enthused, look forward to your best life. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you all so much. If you have any questions, I would love to take and answer your questions now. Just send them in, type them, and you can type them in the Q&A part. You can add them in the chat, and I will do my very, very best to answer them now as we go. I'll just wait for someone's questions, any questions to pop up. Any questions? Okay, so one of the questions I have here is, can someone do this as a husband and wife couple, as a, doing it at the same time? Yes, there actually is that process for people to do. What I do is I actually, when couples decide to do that, is offer them a scenario where they pay for one and they get the other one at half the cost, because I actually prefer for people and couples to do this together, to grow together. I see another question here. Okay, you're welcome, Sonia. It was my pleasure to take this time to teach. Let me see, any more questions? Okay, so I don't see any more questions coming in. What I will do again is just wish you all the best. I hope that we can connect, and I'll be putting together some of your starter kits. I'll talk to you soon. I send you my love. Get some good night's sleep. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.